angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
Sometimes you find yourself in a place where you think the Lord has brought you to do a specific thing, something that has been the desire of your heart since birth. And then things go wrong, and you wonder what exactly is happening. And only in retrospect do you realize that what's happened is that the Lord brought you there to learn what you needed to learn before getting to where He actually wants you. Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert, a very special episode today. Joining us in studio, the CEO of Skywatch TV, Tom Horn.
Hi.
My best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert, and the author of a new book that is inspirational, heartwarming, and will leave you in need of many tissues. No fences, a memoir. Nita Horn. Nita, I didn't make it through the introduction of the book. Before I started tearing up, Sharon has read the entire manuscript, and she said our dachshund was traumatized because she was crying so hard.
Yeah, he kept giving me kisses because, Mom, you're clearly upset. But it's a book that I related to. I think every woman who reads this book is going to feel the same way. And I think men also are going to be touched by it. Tell us why you even wrote this.
Well, it was because he prompted me for the last several years to put on paper where I'm at right now, how I got to where I'm at with our current ministry that we have with these little horses.
And we're going to tell you more about the little plastic ponies in a bit.
Right, yeah. And I have to say, I had been prompting her for years to write her memoirs because Nita has an incredible story, as you now know,
yes,
that the world isn't even aware of. And it does include tears, but it also includes laughter. Mm-hmm. But the book wound up just being so much deeper than what I had actually thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought she's going to use some of her ponies to say, here's some of the things that I learned in life and lessons from my ponies. And she really opened her heart.
It's been an amazing journey, and it has taken many years to get there. And I know that it's just beginning. This part of the whole journey is now just beginning and just unfolding. But anyway.
How has your love of horses changed, or maybe I should say your vision of what you thought God wanted you to do with horses changed over the years?
Well, whenever you're young, I always thought I would just be riding on them and doing all that stuff, you know. There was a little horse named Tink that we had acquired, and she was abused, and I didn't know it when we bought her. And I had asked all the pertinent questions. Is she easy to catch? Blah, blah, blah. And of course, they tell you everything you want to hear. And so I brought this little girl home along with a little teammate. It was a little team, set of teams to pull.
Now, and when you say little horse, just for the audience, you mean you're talking miniature?
Talking a miniature horse, not pony, and a 32-inch tall. And anyway, Tink wouldn't come anywhere near people at all. And the one thing the guy forgot to tell me is, yeah, she's really easy to catch if you have a cowboy and a rope. Serious, because that's kind of what he told me. You have to get her in a stall and then put a rope around her, and if she doesn't obey, you beat her with it, is what he told me. And so I thought, okay, I get it. This poor little horse is really, really fearful. Well, as time went on, the more I got to know Tink, the more I realized that she was a mirror of some of things. I'm sorry, guys.
Go ahead.
No, you go right ahead,
Sorry.
because this is what I did when I was reading your book all day yesterday. One of the things that impressed me the most about Tink's story is that you finally realized that Tink was trying to tell you something. Yes. And that also reminded you and taught you that God had been trying to tell you something, that your childhood vision of riding horses with your knight in shining armor off into the sunset was a childhood dream, but it was given to you because he had something, a different version
Right.
of it in mind. And you had to listen to this little pony whisper to you.
Exactly.
Well, and that vision, she's going to get on a horse and ride off to meet, her knight in shining armor actually turned up with her meeting, a young punk kid that thought more of himself than he should. And she tells a hilarious story in there that we won't take time on the show. But
Let's just say Tom Horn in a mud hole.
yeah, well, stuck on a horse up to the chest in a mud hole.
Trying to show off.
Yeah, trying to show off and ruining her day where she dreamed she's going to ride her horse, over the hills and meet her Prince Charming. Well, yeah, there's some really funny stuff in there.
Well, but again, that's another aspect I think that a lot of people can relate to, because you're looking for that knight in shining armor, and when you find out is that the knight in shining armor is really this guy, this show-off who winds up stuck neck deep in a mud hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can never judge too soon.
Right.
And sometimes the concepts that we have are a little bit off, but the tools are there. And so.
And I want to say, when I first, this is part of the story that the public will learn, how Nita and I met when we were really, really young teenagers. And I really was kind of just a headstrong, punk, cocky, teenager. And first time I saw Nita, she was walking with a leg in a cast and her jaw wired shut. And she does tell the story in there about that whole event, about her sister and her dad being killed and almost her and her mother almost dying. But that was the first time I ever saw her. And yet God just put a love in my heart for her. I loved her, broken and all, right? And
you just wanted to smack him the first time. Pretty much.
Well, he did not make the greatest impression on me. But what was amazing is that, again, like with Tink, the more I got to know the person in the mud, it wasn't such a stick in the mud. He was turned out to be the hero part of my story, so. But you got to read it to get the whole story.
You do. And you guys moved around a lot.
Yes,
we were talking just before we started the recording, and I've moved a lot of times in my life, but you were moving with family, you were moving with kids, and that makes it super hard. Can you very briefly tell me the skillet story?
Well, as a child, my mom and dad moved around a lot also. We attended several schools, almost sometimes 2 a year. We just was like skipping stones on a pond. And so then when we got married and got together, we was in ministry, and it takes you wherever the Lord takes you, and sometimes you're not in one place very long. Some people are and some people aren't, so we skimmed around quite a bit. But I used to hear my mom say someday she'll hang her skillet. And so she gave me a skillet so that someday when I get to where I'm going to hang it, I would hang it. And for some reason, I just never, yes, I did try to hang them one time.
Yes.
And it was an amazing day. We got up, me and my daughters were there. We had this little pot rack that he had built for me, custom built, just so that I could hang every one of my choice skillets. And I'm not kidding you. This was an amazing moment, and this was like years ago. I was standing there drinking coffee, thinking in my mind, we're here.
Finally, you've settled. This will be our last home. The children have one place.
This is the place. And all of a sudden, the whole pot rack come crashing down. Every single skillet hit the floor, and amazingly, nothing was broke. There were none of the coffee cups, the tile on the counter. He had just put brand new tile on the counter. Nothing. Not one piece of tile was cracked. But as they hit the ground, and they're just in slow motion, they're bouncing around, I almost could feel the Lord go, "You'll hang them whenever I say you hang them." And then immediately my girls, they knew what I was thinking. And they was like, "No, Mom, this don't mean anything." And I said, "Okay, yeah, but it does."
Yeah.
And I knew it did. There was no doubt in my mind that we weren't there yet.
All I could think of is later in the book, because you do talk about the Lord whispering to you sometimes and teaching you things through various ways of communication. And I thought, well, sometimes he has to ring bells.
Yeah.
Huge earthquake in our kitchen with all these cast iron skillets falling down. But
yes.
Yeah, and of course, look where you are now.
Yeah.
Well, even that wasn't without some drama. I mean, you decided that Oregon was not the place, and you came here to the Ozarks,
Right.
as Tom tells the story, to retire, put up a fence, let out the dogs, and that lasted 15 minutes before you got bored.
Right.
But you had this wonderful farmhouse that you found, an historic home in this area. Everybody knew, oh, that's the place out on Highway.
Right.
Right.
And then because of old wiring in the home and a home built prior to modern fire codes, it went out and everything was gone.
Well, the
was
wiring
going
had actually been redone, hadn't it?
except
Yeah.
for the part between the box
Except
and the
that.
house.
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind that you think, finally, here we are, the place where I can hang the it's got the barn for the little horses, and suddenly it's gone.
Yeah. Well,
What went through your mind?
What's odd is I never did hang my skillet in that house either.
Wow.
Have you hung
Never.
it yet?
No, not yet. I'm waiting for the Lord to tell me that it's okay. I think it's getting close, but He's going to just, when He gives me the peace to do it, I'll make sure that it gets done.
Well, the other part of the story that, of course, the public, and there's a lot of people that have been calling and emailing and asking, writing letters, wanting updates on the Whispering Ponies Ranch. And what they'll learn by reading Nita's book, No Fences, is how this dream that started in her when she was a child, her and her sister used to imagine how they could use horses as therapy animals to heal the brokenhearted and the sick, and they had all these little tore up, broken little toys, and they would sew them back together and practice being,
Fly on their magic carpet.
right.
Yeah.
To me, that's the cool part of the book is people will read it, and then they're going to find in themselves, the faith to believe that I may not be there yet, but God is taking me there, right?
Yeah.
I would also like to add that sometimes what we conceive as real ministry doesn't have to be what other people's ministry is. And for the longest time, I felt like a misfit because I felt like to be in ministry, you have to be a pastor's wife, or you have to go do a Sunday school class, or you have to do, and all of those things are awesome and wonderful, and they reach people. And as much of all of those things I did, I never felt it was where I was supposed to be. And I always thought I was the one that had the problem. Until recently, like I said, as when I met Tink. And then there was another little pony that was the counterpart to Tink, whose name was Ellie, who had been a therapy animal before. And the story behind Ellie got me to thinking, what could I do with myself? And that is kind of what put me on the right path to where I'm at and to what I'm doing with my part of what I'm supposed to do. And I'm thankful, and this is another important part, that my spouse, who a lot of times I've seen, spouses can be very stifling to the individual calling in a marriage. And I love the fact that in our marriage, I've always been there to support him, and he's always been there to support me. I mean, and has recognized that I have a calling also. And that to me, if people could understand that it's definitely like two horses pulling a cart in the same direction. They're individual creatures, and they each have what they do, and they have their likes and dislikes, but they both have purpose, and they both can have a calling that is all for the kingdom. It's all for the kingdom anyway.
Yeah, well, Derek and Sharon, as you guys know, I might be the CEO of Skywatch TV, but I've told everybody that when I can, I actually want to go to work for her because I've seen the therapy ministry and how children can be healed and people can be healed and touched in a way with those animals that just doesn't happen, especially if they've lost trust in other people. It's an amazing thing.
And one of the other things we want to make clear to you as a viewer that Nita's story is not unique. You see in the title, the cover of the book, No Fences, it started with a plastic pony. All of us have a story. And we may think that it's insignificant, unimportant. But in the eyes of God, it is precious. We'll tell you more about how we want to help you share your story with the world as Skywatch TV continues right after this.
From the time she was little, Nita dreamed of horses. Every childhood fantasy rode on the back of a heroic white steed, coming to save the day.
I don't know how long I've had this love in my heart for horses. It's just always been there. And when we were little girls, my sister and I would play all day long. I was always the white horse and she was always the little pink pig.
Let's pretend Lightning and Rosie can fly.
But everything changed in a heartbeat. On December 9th, 1971, a tragic car accident claimed the life of my dad and my best friend and my little sister. And I wondered after that if there was anything left to believe in.
Move aside, let the ambulance through. Please move aside.
As a child of 13, I felt like I had lost practically everything. And I wondered, is this it? I mean, where do I go from here? I could not have imagined back then how God could use horses, of all things, to restore my faith and vision for the future.
Starting April 19th, get your copy of Nita Horn's inspirational new book, No Fences, and learn for the first time her amazing story of loss, survival, determination, and healing. How the vision and love God gave her for these beautiful and majestic animals eventually led to the 150-acre Whispering Ponies Ranch, a general retreat facility, as well as a premier training location that specializes in using and gifting therapeutic animals to benefit the herding. Other care facilities, schools, and ministries across the nation.
When God puts something in your heart, it's there for a lifetime.
We're talking about the new book, No Fences. It's a memoir by Nita Horn. And on the cover it says, it started with a plastic pony. And it's a story that, to a Hollywood producer perhaps, at points along your life, Nita, might not get the green light to be turned into a feature film, but in God's eyes, it's a storyline that he wrote from the beginning of creation. But all of us have a similar story. And I think, as you described, as Tom has described, your view of yourself as compared to Tom's view of you the first time you saw each other, I think a lot of people have a view of themselves that is quite different from what the Lord's view is. Mm-hmm. And when they step back and look at it and realize that from the beginning of creation, he wrote those storylines for us, and then to redeem us, of course, came to earth and sacrificed himself for us. You've come up with, I think, a wonderful way to encourage people to begin telling their stories, even if the world doesn't hear it, but if their children and grandchildren know the stories. Let's talk a little bit about that, Tom.
You know, by reading Nita's story, the one thing that stood out, it stood out to me, it stood out to Sharon, everybody that's read it so far, reading this story realized that they too have a story, and that story could be told and could be an encouragement to a lot of other people. And so what we decided to do, you know, we're famous for, here, buy this book and get $300 worth of other stuff free, right? But this time we decided to do something entirely different, which will hopefully be even more significant, and that is to encourage the public to get Nita's book, read it, watch what she did, how she told her story. And then what we're going to do is, for everybody that buys that book through Skywatch Television, we're going to send them a journal so that they also can make notes about their story. And then we're going to have, contest probably isn't a really good word, but we're having a writing event, you know, in which we are going to encourage people to, what is the starting date?
Starting date will be May the 1st.
Yeah, starting on May the 1st, to send in their short story. Write down your story. Even if you think it's not significant, write down your story because it is significant, and then send those in. Short story, 10 pages, maybe less than 2,000 words or something like that. And what we're going to do is we are going to pick 10 of the stories that we want to publish, and we're going to put them in an anthology. All 10 of the people we select, we're also going to send them a $500 cash award. And by the end of this year, during the holiday season, we're going to publish that anthology with those 10 stories in it, and then we'll do a special program on it at Skywatch TV. But we'll send them the journal. We're also going to send them the plastic pony.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll have to
A
learn the
plastic
mystery.
pony.
A plastic pony?
Not the plastic.
Oh, not the.
No,
This
not
is
the
the
plastic
plastic.
pony.
This is lightning.
And the book will also explain why there's a pig
Yeah,
Yes.
next to lightning.
And little Rosie,
right.
lightning's best friend.
That was one of my favorite parts of the book. I can so picture that.
The journal that will come with the book is, we've got a variety of them. They normally retail for $20, but just as an encouragement to actually put your story down, it actually encouraged me to pull out, I've got one similar for fathers to leave a legacy for their children that I haven't written in 15 years, and I figure I better get started on it because the rate I'm going, the arthritis will take its toll before I finish. But I think just thinking about my parents, my grandparents, and just unexceptional people in the eyes of the world. But just thinking about my father, I'm at an age now where I can look back on my dad at the age I am now and realize some of the things that he might have done differently had he not had children that he was responsible for. My mother, the same way. Things that she sacrificed in order to make sure that my sister and I had the upbringing we did. The things that your parents did and God bless your father, 6 daughters. But again, in the eyes of the world, unexceptional, but in the eyes of God, remarkable.
And absolutely unique.
And absolutely unique, each one of us. And so...
well, and this is what Jesus said to his disciples. Those of you that think you're going to be great, you're going to become the least of all, and the least are going to become the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So that when you think about the person that gets up every day and goes down and feeds the poor on the street, their story may not ever be celebrated by Hollywood, but that is Jesus. What does he say? When he returns and separates the sheep from the goats, what does he say? I was hungry and you gave me meat. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was sick and in prison and you visited me. And then if you've done this to the least of my little ones, you've done it unto me. So this is what we want people to understand, that in this, again, I hate the term contest, but in this writing contest, maybe their story is something they've never thought was big about themselves, but they do believe that it's what God has told them to do. Or maybe they've had a dream like Nita did as a child, and maybe they're not even there yet, but they still somehow believe that God is taking them there and it will come to fruition. So maybe they're sending it to us in the middle of their story, right? Or like you say, maybe it isn't even about them. My mother did this, my father fought in a war, sacrifices were made. Or maybe they overcame an illness and learned how to succeed even though they have some kind of debilitating situation.
Or on the far side of it, realize that had it not been for that, they would not be where God wanted them to be.
Right, and so that's the story. We want people, the book will be available April 19th, and then so they'll see it in the store, they'll see it everywhere, Amazon and all that. But if they get it from us, we're going to send them the journal, and then we're going to encourage them. There's a 2-month window of time where they can send in their story. 10 of those will be picked and published in an anthology later this year.
The Lord has designed each person here for a specific purpose. Every one of you is designed for a specific purpose, and you may not yet realize where the Lord's taking you on this journey. I know I'm just now getting to know you personally, but reading this book gave me such insight into you. But there are lessons that apply to men and women alike. You started a journey with a plastic pony and a little pink pig, and now you've got Whispering Ponies Ranch, which I believe is going to minister not just training therapeutic ponies, but also help kids who have been abused or just don't fit the way you were talking
Well,
about.
and actually, Nita has an update on the construction aspects of Whispering Ponies Ranch.
Yes, but answering the question about the ponies and how we're planning to use those, we actually are just, we're praying, God, how do you want us? It's His plan. It's His farm.
You're not going to hang the skillet yet, and you're going to have him tell you how that goes.
To be
too.
truthful with you, I'm probably going to hang my skillet in the barn.
I think that's a great idea.
It's probably going to happen.
Yeah. With just about a minute to go, where are we at with the status of Whispering Ponies Ranch?
Well, the watering facilities have all been completed. We have a few shelters left for each of those paddocks that have also been completed. The arena, we have yet to put the proper flooring down. The 2-horse bath station is complete. The handicapped restrooms, men and women, have been completed. The tack room / buggy room where we store all of our supplies has been finished. So we're very close to being able to use it full time now for
Well, and
for
also
training.
the RV park is this week and next week they'll be putting in the final
Should be
parts of the
finished.
RV park.
Should
So
be
yeah,
finished
fencing.
within- yeah.
So it's ready. And in June she has her first event that's happening there. And there'll also be Nat Geo is considering even coming out for one of the events to film at National Geographic. So
That would be
That's an
exciting.
unconfirmed statement.
it's unconfirmed, but they're talking about it.
Well, you can find out more as on the progress of Whispering Ponies Ranch online at whisperingponiesranch.com. But keep your eye on Skywatch TV. No Fences, Nita Horn. It all started with a plastic pony, and it is the ponies that cinched the deal and convinced us to become a part of Skywatch TV.
Yeah.
So, Nita Horn, Tom Horn, for Sharon K. Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert, and we thank you for watching. This is Skywatch TV. To celebrate the release of Nita Horn's inspiring new book, No Fences, Skywatch TV would like you to tell your story, because after all, even if you don't think so, you actually have a story.
Send in your story, and we are going to choose the 10 best, and they'll be published for Christmas release in an anthology of those stories, along with the book that you buy that is actually only $19.95. Am I right on that?
That's correct.
For free. Tom Horn, crazy guy, he's throwing in a journal which on its own, most of these retail for $20 on their own. So this journal is to help you start writing your story. When you buy the book, not only are you going to be enrolled in this and you can send in your story, but you'll get a plastic pony, you'll get a journal of your own, and the proceeds from the book are going to help fund the studio we're building for Skywatch Women. And Nita Horn is going to be one of our panel members.
The 10 authors who are selected for the anthology, published by Defender Publishing in time for Christmas, will also receive a $500 cash prize.
And that'll go a long way at Christmas time, won't it?
Yes, it will. Even if your story is not one of those selected for the anthology, if you've taken the time to write your story, you've left a legacy for your children and for your grandchildren.
Amen to that.
For complete instructions and details on this opportunity, please log on to skywatchtv.com/nofences.